In an animated sequence, the Joker's shadow steps into his place, performing a musical number on a TV show stage. But as the song ends, the shadow leaves, abandoning him just as 3 policemen arrive and start beating him. Meanwhile, Arthur Fleck is being held at Arkham State Hospital, awaiting trial for crimes he committed 2 years ago. His attorney, Mary Ann Stewart, intends to argue that Arthur has dissociative identity disorder and that his Joker persona is responsible for the acts he's accused of. During a music therapy session in another part of the hospital, known as B Ward, Arthur meets Harleen Leigh Quinzel, another patient. Leigh confides that she grew up in the same neighborhood, had an abusive father who died in a car accident, and was committed after setting her parents' apartment building on fire. She also shares her admiration for the Joker's personality and crimes. During a screening of The Bandwagon in B Ward, Leigh starts a fire, and she and Arthur are caught trying to escape, leading to Arthur being placed in solitary confinement. Later, Leigh visits him, revealing she's being discharged to avoid his influence, but promises to attend his trial. They share an intimate moment before she leaves. In a televised interview with Patty Mayers, Arthur sings to Leigh through the screen, deepening her feelings for him. On the trial day, Assistant District Attorney Harvey Dent presents witnesses who refuse Arthur's insanity claims. During a break, Mary Ann discloses surprising information. Leigh was actually a psychiatry student from the Upper West Side, and her father is alive. She voluntarily checked herself into Arkham, discharged herself, and never set an apartment building on fire. Confronted by Arthur, Leigh admits she lied to get close to him, but reveals she's pregnant and has moved into his former apartment building to start life together. At the trial the next day, Arthur chooses to dismiss his lawyer, opting to represent himself instead. Assistant District Attorney Harvey Dent continues his case by calling 2 key witnesses to the stand: Arthur's former co-worker Gary Puddles and his neighbor Sophie Dumont. Dent's questioning leads to powerful testimonies, particularly from Gary, whose words clearly unsettle Arthur. Despite his reaction, Arthur doesn't provide any formal defense, but instead gives a bitter statement where he mocks the guards at Arkham, suggesting that they subject him to regular abuse. Once back at Arkham, Arthur is escorted by head guard Jackie Sullivan and 2 other guards to the showers, where he is brutally beaten. They eventually drag him back to his cell, leaving him bruised and partially clothed. His friend and fellow inmate Ricky witnesses the aftermath and angrily confronts the guards, demanding answers. The confrontation escalates, and in a rage, Jackie strangles Ricky to death in front of Arthur's cell. In court the next day, Arthur, devastated by recent events, delivers his closing argument. He distances himself from his Joker persona, renouncing it entirely and taking full responsibility for his crimes. This declaration shocks and infuriates Leigh, who leaves the courtroom in anger and disappointment. Shortly after, the jury finds Arthur guilty of first-degree murder. As the foreman reads the verdict, a car bomb explodes just outside the courthouse, causing chaos and casualties. The blast severely injures many, including Harvey Dent, who is left with one side of his face permanently scarred. Amid the pandemonium, 2 of Arthur's followers seize the opportunity to help him escape. After wandering through Gotham City, Arthur finds Leigh waiting outside his old apartment building. He approaches her, hoping for support, but she rebuffs him, deeply disappointed by his decision to disown the Joker identity. She walks away, leaving Arthur alone and reeling. Soon after, the police arrive and apprehend Arthur, returning him once again to Arkham. The next day, as Arthur sits alone in his cell, a young inmate approaches and begins telling him a joke. But without warning, the inmate launches a vicious attack, repeatedly stabbing Arthur in the abdomen. As Arthur lies bleeding, the attacker carves a twisted smile into his own face while laughing hysterically, leaving Arthur's fate tragically sealed. The original Joker film left audiences and critics polarized, with its raw depiction of Arthur Fleck's descent into madness ending in a notorious brutal live television murder scene. Director Todd Phillips now returns with Joker Folie, Deux, shifting from gritty realism to a full-fledged musical. While this choice may sound novel, the result is a mixed bag that raises questions about how far we can push the Joker's story before it loses its meaning. The film opens with Arthur in Arkham Asylum, awaiting trial, and introduces us to his new companion, Leigh Quinzel, played by Lady Gaga. Their twisted bond unfolds in shared fantasies and quiet moments in the harsh reality of Arkham's walls. Gaga and Phoenix bring depth to their roles, moving fluidly between their characters' real lives and musical dreamscapes. The film's set list, featuring standards from The Great American Songbook, The 60s hits fit surprisingly well, and some numbers stand out as powerful, unsettling reflections of Arthur's mind. Phillips' musical angle is intriguing in theory, as Arthur's imagination reframes his reality like an endless performance. However, the story remains frustratingly thin, failing to develop beyond the nihilistic tone that defined the first film. The romance with Leigh and the court scenes drag, seeming to stretch endlessly, making the narrative feel incoherent and repetitious rather than fresh. The performances shine despite these flaws, though. Phoenix's range is on full display, though his Joker mannerisms occasionally feel self-indulgent, as if he's more absorbed in displaying his craft than serving the story. Gaga matches him in intensity, her singing embodying the desperation and complexity of Leigh's character. As much as their work deserves applause, the film's ponderous pace and lack of cohesion might leave audiences longing for a tighter, more meaningful narrative. Joker Folie is daring in concept, yet it may not fully satisfy either comic book fans or musical lovers. It's a peculiar blend that's occasionally thrilling but ultimately weighed down by its own ambition and bleak worldview. If nothing else, Phillips continues to explore the dark possibilities within Gotham, though whether this journey feels justified will be up to each viewer to decide. Thank you very much for watching the whole video. And if you have a movie or TV show that you want us to cover, just comment it down below. We'll make a video of it in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our playlist for more recaps.